Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen! Zwift Racing League Round 4 Legends Route. After my altitude camp in Mojácar, I have no idea what to expect. Let's find out! I missed race 1 because of my altitude camp, but coming into race 2 I felt ready. A points race on the classic, a simple course on paper, from downtown Watopia straight through the volcano and then onto the Jarvis lap. 6 laps of pure chaos. And every lap there were points for the grab. Twice over the Jarvis KOM and at the Jarvis Sprint. I felt strong and ready to go all in for 33 kilometers, even though points races have never really suited me. For the setup I stuck with my fully upgraded Canyon Aeroad. But for the wheels I tried something new. After watching a video from Gerben about the fastest wheels on Zwift, I went with the Princeton Wake 6560s. As we hit the circuit, it's time to introduce the squad. Pieter Jan, Arno, Matthias, Geert, Yves and yours truly. 6 riders, 1 goal. Take as many points as possible, and today we're not holding back. Right from the first ascent of the Jarvis KOM, the pace was brutal. And already I was asking myself, how am I supposed to survive 6 laps of this? I even ended up setting a PR here. My plan today was simple: stay sharp, stay near the front, because I knew this would turn into an elimination race. And if I could just hang on lap after lap, maybe, just maybe, I could still pick up some points. Because one thing was clear, I don't have a strong sprint to rely on. I made it over the climb near the front, first points in the bag. But there was no recovery, no reset. Within a minute, the Jarvis Sprint was already there. And every arch meant power-ups, and that changed everything. Feather at the sprint, draft at the lap banner, arrow over the KOM. So now it wasn't just about legs, it was about timing. I chose to use the feather on the climb and save the arrow for the sprint. Because on that KOM, drafting means nothing for me. What you need there is less weight. I was curious to see what would happen on the second climb. Would it be just as brutal? But pretty quickly it became clear. The first lap had done its job. That was where the damage was done. This time the pace was still hard, but not all out anymore. And that's when it clicked. Most teams had shifted their focus, not the climb, but the sprints. And that's when I realized the altitude camp had worked. At no point in this race was I completely on the limit. I felt comfortable, in control. My base, my climbing legs, they were there. But there was still one problem. No matter how hard I tried in the sprints, finishing at the very front, that still felt out of reach. Every sprint was cutting the group down. 68 riders turning into fewer and fewer. After lap 1 we lost Geert and Yves, but the rest of us, Arno, Pieter Jan, Matthias and I, we held the front. And I could see it happening. Sprint after sprint my teammates were up there, taking points. That's when it hit me. We were having a seriously strong race, and now I needed to see how far we could take this. My feeling before the race turned out to be right. Points races have never really suited us as a team, but on this course things were different. That climb in the middle, that changed everything. Because Pieter Jan, Matthias, Arno and now even me, after losing weight and building a stronger base, we could all survive the Jarvis KOM. And with the race turning into an elimination, the 4 of us kept showing up in the points, again and again and again. And then there was something completely different. The Zwift Big Spin. At the top of the Jarvis KOM, a spinning wheel. Every lap you hit the line and got rewarded with XP or prizes. A nice bonus, but honestly, at that moment you don't care about rewards, you're just trying to survive. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It takes the race a bit away from pure cycling. But I get it, it's good for marketing and it probably makes the sport more accessible to a wider audience. Not just the racing and data nerds like me. Another sprint done, and somehow the 4 of us were still right there at the front. Back to the routine, shift down a few gears, grab a quick sip and try to recover, just for a minute. Because that's all you get before it all starts again. 6 sprints to go. 7 if you make it to the finish. I felt strong today, but Mojácar could have ended very differently. Right after a descent, just as the road kicked uphill, my TPU tube exploded. And honestly, I got lucky, because 1 minute earlier that happens at full speed downhill. That's a crash. That's how small the margins are. But now I was already on the climb, stopped, fixed it, back on the bike. And today I'm here to fight for points. I think it's time to speed things up a bit, because by now you probably get the idea. Jarvis KOM, Sprint, Jarvis Sprint, full gas. The group getting smaller every single lap. And then we do it all over again. By the fourth ascent of the Jarvis KOM, the front group was down to around 30 riders. And that's when I realized something. All 4 of us were still there. No one dropped, no one in trouble. Which meant one thing. We were heading for a top 30, maybe even top 20 with all 4 riders. And that mattered, because in this format it's not about one winner, it's about which team scores the most points. And with the finish points still coming, everything was still to play for. And by the 5th climb I knew, my climbing legs were there. Every time with the Jarvis KOM I could hold position at the front without any real trouble. But then came the sprints. Every single time there were 10, maybe 15 riders just that bit more explosive than me. I guess you can't have it all. And with every sprint we were getting closer and closer to the one that really mattered, the final sprint. And yeah, thanks spinning wheel, 15,000 XP, couldn't care less. And just like that we're heading for the final lap. Tell me, you're not feeling sick yet from all these laps? Because I definitely am. And just like that, no more jokes. This is where it gets serious. Final lap, one last climb, one last sprint, and then it's all decided. And just like we hoped, all 4 of us are still in the front group. So I make a decision. On the climb, one last all-out effort. Empty the tank. But for the Jarvis Sprint, I'm going to play differently. I'll explain in a second, because at this point you have to play the cards you're dealt. In the final ascent of the Jarvis KOM, it was the same scenario. The group stayed together, and once again it came down to a sprint, but now with a much smaller group. One last effort, I went all in within my limits and managed to sprint my way into the top 15. On the short descent towards the final sprint I had to make a call. I could go all in for the Jarvis Sprint, but I already knew how that would end. 10, maybe 15 riders faster than me. And more importantly, a lot of them would burn their last match right there. So I made a different choice. I held back, stayed with the group, didn't go full gas, saving everything for the final sprint, the finishing sprint. Because if I played it right, this could still be a top 20. And more importantly, more points for the team. And it pays off, riders started to crack one by one. I moved up, kept pushing and crossed the line in 17th place, a solid result. Matthias and Arnold also delivered, 22nd and 12th, but then, who's that launching like a rocket out of the final sprint? It's Peter Jan. One long, powerful, unstoppable effort. Watch him go. He doesn't fade, he doesn't hesitate, he wins it. What an incredible ride. Congratulations, Peter Jan. But like I said, in a points race it's not the winner takes it all. So let's take a look at the team result, and that's where it gets really interesting. Arno ends up scoring the most points for the team, followed by Matthias and then Peter Jan. I also managed to put in a solid contribution with 595 points. And with Geert and Yves adding their share as well, it all adds up, because in the end we finished second as a team in this race. And honestly, that's a result we can be seriously proud of. That's it for this race. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it helps the channel more than you think. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next race. Bye!